Smark Podcast. Welcome to the KayFabe Smark Podcast with Eric Todd and Brian Rompa, your Smart Mark source for news and opinions on the world of professional wrestling.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the KayFabe Smark Podcast. This is episode 66. We are here on August 19th, getting ready to talk about some pro wrestling. But before we dive into that, make sure you guys head over all of our social media platforms. Get on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all of the fun stuff there. The KayFabe Smark Podcast. Subscribe, like, and share all those podcasts on all the platforms that you guys subscribe to. But before we get into the nitty-gritty and the dirty, let's see what's happening with Mr. Eric Todd. Eric, what's up?
You know, same old. Just chilling here with Stella. Stella, I don't know if the audience knows this, but she can be a bit of an asshole. She is the biggest baby when it comes to human friends and whatnot, but other dogs, it's a wrap usually, like, stay the fuck away from me. But she's been obsessed with the neighbor dog across the street for the longest time. And he invited her over to meet his dog, my neighbor, anyway. And he's got a 14-year-old dog, and I was scared shitless because he's about 30 pounds lighter than my dog. And they ended up being like best buds. Now they're running the streets, pooping in grass, and peeing on trees together.
Well, I guess that takes a stress off when you guys are outside and you see the neighbor dog. At least you know they'll probably play and everything will be all right.
Yep, I'm like a proud father. My little pig made a new friend.
Proud Faja. I got kicked out of my house this week for 3 days because they were rebuilding the balcony off of my master bedroom, and evidently the boards that support the balcony go 8 foot into my master bedroom, and everything had to be moved out. They go, you can't have anything in your bedroom. We had to tear everything out. And I went, wonderful. Where am I supposed to sleep? They said, they went, that's a good question. So I said, I'm not taking everything downstairs into my living room. And so they comped us a hotel room for 3 days around the corner. So as fun as that sounds, it was a big pain in the ass
I'm sure it was.
Maintaining a family of 4 and living and working out of a hotel. So I'd get up in the morning and my kids go, where are you going? We're going to work. We're staying in a hotel a mile from our house. This is not vacation. They're living the life of Riley, swimming and hanging out at a hotel. I got to get up and go to work. But anyways, I digress. We watched wrestling. We're going to talk about it. But first, we usually chat about some news. Do you have news for us?
We do got a little bit of news. Not a super heavy news week this week, but a few things did happen. First things first, legendary professional wrestler Dominic DeNucci passed away at the age of 89. He passed away on August 12th. He did have a pretty decorated wrestling career. He's in the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, not the WWE Hall of Fame. And he also is very well known as being the trainer for Mick Foley, Shane Douglas, and also Moondog Spot. So, yeah, it was kind of a sad day in the wrestling world when Dominic DeNucci passed.
Yeah, not familiar with Dominic DeNucci's work, as he was well before my time, and but I do remember the name of people saying they were trained by him. I remember Shane Douglas, as you said, and Mick Foley talking about him. So those are a few that I do remember hearing about it on that end of professional wrestling.
Yeah, Mick Foley talked about him glowingly in his first book, Have a Nice Day. So that's why the name immediately popped out to me. And then from one loss of life to a gain of another, NXT's favorite couple, Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano, the same faces, will be having their first child together, and their baby is due in February of next year. As far as Candice LeRae, she's not just dipping out the gates like Becky Lynch and what's that, Southern Belle, the one Ric Flair was having an affair with, Lacey Evans.
Lacey Evans.
She's not skirting right out the WWE yet. The quote from Candice LeRae is, I don't plan on being away until I absolutely have to. Indy, that would be Hartwell, clearly needs me, and I want to be there for my locker room of girls as long as I possibly can. And I imagine she won't be wrestling, but she's definitely sticking around to get that WWE money.
Oh, yeah, why wouldn't you? I don't know why some of the other girls did. Maybe they were just nervous about being on the road. I guess with the minimal travels these days, maybe that's taken some heat off. When Becky was giving up her championship, they were still deep in traveling, so you gotta figure out you gotta travel and live while pregnant. That would suck.
Yeah, that would definitely stink. But yeah, I don't know. Congrats to the Garganos.
The Garganos.
The King of the Ring tournament will be returning to the WWE.
Huh.
It was reported by Andrew Zarian of Matt Min Podcast that WWE is planning on reviving King of the Ring tournament in October, with the finals set up to take place in Saudi Arabia, which will be the same place that the Queen of the Ring finals will take place. So last time WWE had a King of the Ring tournament was all the way back in 2019.
All the way. How we ever do
It's
we
an
even remember
eternity
that?
ago. And Baron Corbin won that one, and we see where that's gotten him from king to hobo.
Probably the best gimmick he's had right now.
It is. So I'm not the biggest WWE fan. NXT is like decent, but I don't watch SmackDown or Raw unless I absolutely have to.
They're just
Baron
too
Corbin,
long.
that's one thing, but Baron Corbin's new gimmick has gotten me this close to turning on WWE television again. And then I saw RK Bro, and I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not watching it. I hate Matt Riddle with a fucking passion, Brian.
More than Dana White hates him.
Probably. Every time I see Matt Riddle, I just want to cut his stupid hair and drown him in a bathtub.
You don't like him coming out and kicking off his sandals?
It was a little better when birds flew out of his asshole when he jumped up in the middle of the ring. But RK Bro, to bring Randy Orton down so many notches by being associated with Matt Riddle, makes me want to vomit. In other news of things that make me want to vomit, Ric Flair showed up at Triple Mania XXIX. That would be 29 for you guys who don't know Roman numerals. And he delivered a few weak, cringy chops to Kenny Omega. And he accompanied his son-in-law, Andrade El Idolo, to the ring, where Andrade proceeded to lose to Kenny Omega. And life goes on. But Ric Flair making the rounds, and who knows where he'll end up.
We're not going to mention the terribly weak sauce figure 4 that he put on Conan.
I guess I only watched the one clip that you sent me, and I just erased it from my mind immediately. But this was the absolute worst figure 4 I've ever seen, and this includes ones I was doing to my little brother when I was 9 years old.
The best is like Conan clearly just, no question, laid down for him. Like literally just laid down for him. He took a pat. He got a pat on the chest for a chop, and then laid down, and then laid there and swung his hands around and went, no, and then got the loosest, weakest figure 4. I get it. He's like 112, Ric Flair, but if you're gonna do it, get in the ring and try to do it right. Otherwise, don't do it. It would be my. And while we're talking about it, Kenny should have lost that, but we'll talk more about that later. We'll continue.
Yeah, rumor on the street was he was originally supposed to, but we will discuss that later on in the evening. And then finally, like I said, it was a light news week. Max Caster being Mr. Petty over in AEW. We all heard the story about him and his stupid rap that made it onto YouTube. And then Tony Khan doing damage control, saying he will have more control in editing, and subsequently suspended Max Caster for, I think, 2 weeks, something like that. Well, Max Caster's rebuttal was to unfollow everybody in AEW except Alex Reynolds and Alex Marvez. He's got a thing for the Alexes. But
and Alex
Max Caster What'd you say?
I said an Alex Mack.
Yes, he's got Nickelodeon on speed dial. And then as he unfollowed everybody in AEW, he proceeded to follow NXT's official Twitter account and started liking a whole bunch of WWE's promotional tweets. So that's right, Max Caster, act like a fucking 5-year-old. And I hope you're out on your ass, and I hope you're back to working flea market shows.
Here's the thing that Ding Dong McGillicuddy didn't think about here when he got suspended from AEW for 2 weeks. Nobody noticed. You're not on TV enough as it is. Take your 2 weeks and fucking go home and learn a new hold. Who cares?
That's number one. Point number one is who the fuck cares and who the hell noticed? I wouldn't have noticed he was off TV because they take people off TV 3 or 4 weeks at a time.
That are in hot storylines.
The only reason I knew is because the Simone Biles and Duke Lacrosse or whatever was all over the place. But yeah, him throwing a little fit like this, WWE doesn't want him. NXT doesn't want him. Vince doesn't want him. So what's to say Tony Khan doesn't pull some WWE 90-day clause shit and cut his contract? He's out on his ass. Nobody's going to want a temper tantrum pussy boy like that.
So here's the thing. He got suspended from AEW TV for 2 weeks, for whatever that's worth. I'm sure there was some money involved in that he was going to lose. But AEW doesn't tell you when, where you can't wrestle. So they could have just easily hit the bricks and went and did an indie show and made a couple $100 over the next 2 weeks. Would have supplemented what he was losing from his possibly wrestling on AEW Dark.
He could have went and did a glizzy on a pole match with Marco Stunt.
Yeah.
And just took his couple weeks off and just laid low, fly under the radar, and everything would have been A-okay.
What a maroon. I didn't like the guy anyways.
And as for that, that's a wrap on the news, Mr. Rampa.
That is a wrap on the news. Following the news, you know it's always time to dive into a little overrated, underrated. And Eric, you brought this one on yourself, my man.
Oh, no, what'd I do?
We are going to do a little bit of overrated, underrated animals in wrestling.
I was going to say pets of wrestling.
Yeah, the pets of wrestling, the animals of wrestling, the animal valets of wrestling. Up first, overrated, underrated, Frankie the parrot from Coco that rolled with Coco Beware.
Frankie's going to be underrated in my book because without Frankie, nobody would have gave two flying fucks about Coco Ware.
Coco Ware!
And that's what Corny refers to him back in the 70s, in the late 70s, early 80s, before Frankie was a thing. Corny just refers to him as Coco Ware.
Mr. Ware.
And I don't think too many people cared about him then. And as a small wrestling fan of a child that I was in the 80s, the bright colors and Frankie and Coco flapping his arms like a goddamn maniac, that's what drew me in. So
yeah. I mean,
Frankie will always be underrated. He's probably still alive. Parrots live 300 years.
Didn't he die in the fire? Didn't Coco Beware's house burn down and like the firefighters heard the bird yelling or something?
Ugh.
I remember.
Way to burn your gimmick.
Overrated, underrated, Matilda with the British Bulldogs. The Bulldog, obviously.
This breaks my heart, Brian, because I love dogs. I love bully breeds, but Matilda was so overrated. She did nothing.
It's a bulldog at the end of the day, right? That was the best pet possibly to have at the ringside because all it's going to do is just sit there and behave.
Right. But if you're going to have a dog escort you to the ring, you got to train that dog to at least bite a boot or something like that, get involved. And Matilda just stood there, which is great. I loved her. And she did her job to just stand there. But if you're going to use a dog, you got to use the dog.
Right. Frankie Ware. Coco Ware. Overrated, underrated. The Komodo dragon that Ricky Steamboat would bring out. Do you remember the Komodo dragon that Ricky Steamboat brought out back in the late 80s?
I do, and probably too many people don't, and that's why the Komodo dragon is overrated. That's if anyone rates it high anywhere. It would be considered overrated because it was just a blip on the radar, a fart in the wind.
It didn't even make sense. Like when the Bulldogs brought out Matilda, or when Frankie came out with, when Coco came out with Frankie, it was on his shoulder. The Bulldogs walked out the dog. These things made sense. Like, it rolled with it, right? But this Komodo dragon, and then these things couldn't be trained, so the mouth had to be duct taped shut. So, like, you would see the duct tape on the front of it. It was like, all right, so this thing's literally just a dinosaur that you brought to the wrestling ring.
Yeah, just a prop. Simply a prop.
Yeah, it would have been better just to, bring a prop. Overrated or underrated? Pepper, Al Snow's dog.
Pepper's going to be underrated because Pepper played his role to a fucking T all the way to Pepper Steak. And you can't get any more out of a WWE pet than to have a heel kill it and feed it to his owner.
And then didn't they get the canine match out of it where it was like a Hell in the Cell with like Rottweilers running around the outside of the ring, and they had to try to not get bit. It was Big Boss Man and Al Snow, and then the Rottweilers were just shitting around the outside of the ring, and they weren't mad. Like, they were just distracted by the people, and the whole thing was a big failure and flop at the end.
Yes. The whole thing was just a shit show. Pun very much intended.
Overrated, underrated, Damien and Jake the Snake.
Oh, man, this is a tough one because visually, Damien really brought the gimmick out in Jake, and it made that snake gimmick just pop. But in reality, Damien just sat there like a slug, and the only Damien that did anything was the one that bit Macho Man.
Yeah,
and,
I was going to say, what about when he flipped from the Python to the Cobras? And that was when he had him biting Macho Man, so he had did the Cobra gimmick, and he'd used the Cobras more in WCW too, because he said it was easier to travel with. But what about when he flipped to that?
See, I don't know. Because when I was younger, it was always the Python, so I associated Jake the Snake with a Python.
Right.
The Cobra is a lot more vicious, but when he switched to the Cobra, I didn't really care, besides the whole Macho Man gimmick.
The Cobra was a good heel, a heel animal, if you will, but visually it was so much smaller on TV to hold up the Cobra, right? It just...
I think that's what it was. The Python had the impressive size, but it just laid there. And
then on his second return there, when he wore all green, the King of the Ring, when he lost to Stone Cold, he used to come out that yellow one, didn't he? That yellow snake? Wasn't it like Repentance or something like that? Some born-again name?
Yep, and I like that snake. That was visually awesome. But I guess if I'm dancing on the line, but I'm going to have to say underrated because Jake really made them snakes work for him. Even when they died in the trunk of his car, he managed to make the snake work his gimmick.
I was just going to say, I went and saw a live spoken word stand-up show that Jake did down in Detroit, and he was talking about all the snakes that would die, and he said one time it died, and he kept it on the road for 2 weeks because he didn't want to call Vince. And he kept using the same snake for 2 weeks, dead, until one night it fell apart in the ring, like it broke in half. He goes, do you know how much easier it is to control a snake when it's dead? He goes, I could make it chase people. I could make it wrap around my neck. I could do whatever I wanted in the ring with it. People thought it was alive. And then one night I held it up over my head and realized it was in 2 pieces. And then Vince called me to his office the next day. And then one for the road here, because this one, these guys came out a lot, right? Coco Beware with Frankie, Damien, Jake, the Snakes, Matilda, the Bulldogs. The Komodo Dragon and Ricky was short-lived, but nonetheless, and then Pepper and Al Snow. But this last one, Undertaker and the Vultures, right? Remember, you'd come out, he'd have the little vultures that would be on the pedestal, like WrestleMania 9, had the birds and stuff like that, or even Mankind's rat What did you think about those ones that were kind of weird, that were like
Um,
one-offs, if you will?
exactly. They're just one-offs and another blip on the radar, like Ricky's Komodo Dragon, and just overrated. They came on TV for a minute. They did their little song and dance, and then it was just gone with the wind.
See you later. That's overrated, underrated. Animals in Wrestling, the Pets Edition. And now we are going to talk about wrestling, and I believe going to be AEW per usual.
Yeah, we're going to start out with the debut episode of Rampage, which aired on Friday the 13th
Dun, dun, dun.
of August.
Yeah, it was, I didn't realize it was only going to be an hour. It's pretty good, not bad. They went for that 10, it's late though. And when are they pre-taping these? Did they ever say, are they going to do it after Dynamite? There's no way they're going live from 10 to 11 for 1 hour in an arena.
Well, they're advertising this coming Friday, tomorrow nights, as live. So I'm not sure if this one was live on the 13th, but as far as I heard, it's supposed to be a taped show. But I think these first couple, the debut and then the rumored return of the Cookie Monster Punk or Chick Magnet Punk is supposed to be this Friday. So I think they're doing these ones live, so no leaks happen.
Maybe they're pre-taping, or maybe they're pre-taping Dynamite. No, because then you would have to have what happened. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Nonetheless, Rampage, it was an okay show. It was an hour. They packed it in pretty tight.
Yeah. Well, first things first, we get to hear Mark Henry on commentary, and he's starting off a little rough, but I think he's going to polish it up a little bit. He seems a little awkward and unsure of himself, which is weird because he's been doing a podcast for a while, but it seems like on TV, he's a little awkward in that commentary position.
Just got to get his feet underneath him again. He's got some nonsense of Excalibur next to him, so he's trying to figure out why this white guy's wearing a wrestling mask that's not on TV.
And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you got Chris Jericho, who is screaming everything that he says, taking a page out of the 2.0 book, apparently.
Yeah, Jericho was on another level. He just was trying to be commentator Jericho. Jericho forgets that he is in professional wrestling and that you can't just be commentator Jericho. You're not separating your character. So you can't just be somebody else and not be in still a feud with MJF. So he doesn't carry over when he goes on the commentary, which is a shame because he does a good job on commentary. So he's either got his one or the other. The split job shits for the birds.
Yeah, try to be the same guy, whether you're behind a microphone or in the ring. And I think things will even out there. We start this one off hot. We start off with the Impact World Championship match between the champion, Kenny Omega, and the challenger, former TNA champion, Christian Cage.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, they went hot with the first one, and that's definitely to get you clicked in, tuned in, locked in, and you're probably going to commit to over half the show on this one match.
Yeah, for sure. The match started off rather slow, at a slow pace, but Kenny Omega and Christian are just working like a well-oiled machine together. A lot of holds, a lot of reversals, and it was going pretty smooth. You got Brian Hebner, Earl Hebner's son, in the referee position. They call him the head referee, and this motherfucker earned it. He is enforcing the rules. He's involved in everything. Brian Hebner, I hope he just sticks to his guns.
Yeah, TNA or AEW slipped up by letting TNA put their referee in charge because he actually did refereeing.
Yeah. I don't know how that happened on an AEW show, but it was Brian Hebner did an awesome job. A couple awkward spots here. Kenny Omega had Christian sitting on the top rope for an eternity, which was kind of strange because, as you mentioned before, this is a 60-minute show, so you don't want to be wasting too much time. But it did work out. Omega was just working on Christian until Christian was able to get to his feet and pull off an awesome looking sunset flip off the top rope. Let's see here. So these guys are also selling their asses off for each other, especially on the big moves. So this is one of the best matches I've seen out of Kenny Omega. It really shows the potential he has when he's in there with a true professional like Christian Cage and not just one of the jagoffs from the indies over in AEW. Christian, at 45 years old or however he is, he's still flying off the top rope. He hits a nice looking frog splash, but Omega way too close to the corner. Christian had to really hold back on it, and that came off as really awkward.
Yeah, I thought I liked how this match was flowing together. They seemed relaxed and comfortable with each other. So I don't know if it was Christian, if there was a comfortability with Christian, or if he was comfortable with Kenny, or if they're just comfortable together. But it just they let wrestling happen, amazing enough, and it wasn't nothing forced, and it got a little mucky towards the end, which we'll talk about. But overall, it just felt like a good wrestling match.
Yeah, and I think what it comes down to is Kenny Omega is really fucking good at doing wrestling moves. He's not fantastic at being a wrestler, if you know what I mean. Whereas Christian is just a professional wrestler through and through, as far as psychology, as far as linking moves together, as far as controlling the flow of the match, knowing where he's supposed to be at all times. So when you got Christian leading the dance with somebody who knows how to do all the steps, it's going to work out pretty well.
Yeah, Kenny can do the moves, but why is Kenny doing the moves is the question we ask a lot. And when is he going to, and so just knowing it's all going to happen, and this was Christian knowing where to be, set it up, make sure it happened, bada boom, bada bing, you're flipping, you're flying, and you're putting on a good show.
Yeah, and I thought this match was wrapping up here at this point because you already got Don Callis on the ring apron distracting Brian Hebner, so Kenny Omega can hit his low blow, and then all of a sudden he only gets a 2 count out of that. Kenny Omega is waving in. He's facing the ramp, waving in. He's got his eyes kind of rolled up in the upper corner of his head, and he's got this goofy look on his face. I swear he looked like Billy Bob Thornton from Sling Blade. I was dying laughing at Kenny Omega's face, but right on cue, his buddies rush down the ramp, the Young Bucks, fling him a chair. Omega's got the chair set up, and he's attempting a one-winged angel. Christian wriggles out of this one-winged angel and hits a absolute brutal kill switch on that chair. Did you see Omega's face smash into that chair, Brian?
Yeah, I don't know how he took that or if he just had to take it. I couldn't figure it out. So it definitely looked painful. Like if it wasn't, they did a damn good job.
Yeah, that was definitely a potato of a chair shot there. Christian ends up pinning Kenny Omega off of that chair spot, and the crowd just absolutely explodes. Jurassic Express come down to celebrate with him. Christian's got both belts, the TNA and the Impact Championships on his shoulders. He's up on the turnbuckle showing those off. Scott D'Amore is in the ring, and we go to commercial. Surprisingly, we don't hear anything from Scotty here.
No, you don't hear anything. It just kind of just and this is where it AEW'd up in just AEW fashion. It just next. The story never really continues on and flows through the entire night. There's no common thread through the entire night, and this was just another example of that.
Yep, like an SNL show, just skits placed in there in any way you see fit.
Yeah, no particular order. Here's your wrestling show.
We come back from break, and Mark Henry's in the back with Christian and the Jurassic Express. Christian is cutting a promo on Kenny Omega, but definitely talking him up the entire time. Doing what you're supposed to do, Brian. When you're building up to a bigger match with a big opponent, you don't want to say, this guy's a fucking joke and I'm going to squash him. That's not going to get much emotion from the crowd and the fans at home behind that. If you talk about how great Kenny Omega is and how you're going to have to overcome to beat him for that championship, I think that generates a lot more interest in an upcoming match.
Yeah, there's a long-term thing going on here, and Christian's working it perfectly to get us to open up our wallets and place down $50 to order the pay-per-view in a couple weeks.
Right. And for some reason, because Tony Khan's got a hard on for Orange Cassidy, this is a Christian promo with his buddies, Dushasaurus and Jungle Boy standing with him. Orange Cassidy is just standing in the background, leaning against the backdrop with an uninterested look on his face.
Why be there if you're uninterested? Hit the bricks.
Right. Leave. If you don't care, why are you even there? Why are you in your gimmick if you don't care? She should just wore his fucking pajamas. Then we get a cheeseball cringe-topia version of American Idol vignette here for O Fuego del Sol.
Oh.
The luchador from Alabama.
They really were just trying to tug at the heartstrings of some, kid coming up. He's pulled himself up from his bootstraps. He's going to do the best. He's okay. I hope he gets to make money wrestling. Why? It's what he wants to do. Why wouldn't he? What am I supposed to say?
But what AEW is doing is it's all-inclusive wrestling. It's AIW. It's pretty much, the audience has a soft spot for this guy. Don't make him, work up the ranks and pay his dues. Let's give him a contract, and they veil it behind this next match here. If Fuego del Sol can somehow beat Miro for the TNT Championship, he gets a contract.
Now, mind you, if anybody listening didn't watch AEW Rampage, in Fuego del Sol is 162 pounds soaking wet with a pocket full of quarters, and Miro's like 280. I don't know, whatever he is. What do they build Miro at? 300? I don't know.
I think they actually build Fuego at 160.
Yeah.
And Miro is 280 pounds of muscle, and he's got the wrath of God behind him in this gimmick that he's working.
So it's like, this is a kid fighting an adult. Like, I'm going to fight my 8-year-old.
Literally, that's the way this thing looked on TV. But whoever produced this match, I think they did a really good job. Miro participated with it. Fuego jumps Miro before the bell here, hits back-to-back tornado DDTs on Miro. Miro is selling his ass off outside of the ring for these 2 tornado DDTs.
But what Miro sells perfectly these days is this jump the gun thing. It's happened 2 times now in these Miro matches, these last couple. It's fine. It works because he's such a monster, so you can't just have him squashing people all the time. That's just going to get boring. But he sells enough that he's not dead. He doesn't, if we will, Cody Rhodes sell. He just sells like he's getting hit too fast. Like he's got these cobwebs that he's just got to clear his eyes. His eyes are crisscrossed. And as soon as he gets his bearings about him, he's going to murder you again. He doesn't look dead. He just looks like he was stunned. And that works. It works in the selling portion of how you're supposed to feel. So I approve of the way that Miro is selling on these. It's not overselling. And the way that the competition stays on top of him and keeps it coming, I think it works for right now.
Yeah, as of right now, Miro is playing this role perfectly. Like you said, shit would be boring if he just walked in and squashed everybody that he saw. But by letting the babyface get the jump on him, he can still make him look good by letting him get a little bit of offense. And that's exactly how this thing went. The back-to-back tornado DDTs. Miro's kind of out of it, kind of dazed outside the ring, just barely beats the count to get into the ring and receives a 3rd tornado DDT from Salsa del Sol here. And then to wrap on that, Brian, Miro hit a Samoan drop and then completely kicks Fuego del Sol's head off. This was one of the most brutal kicks I've ever seen come out of Rusev / Miro. He kicked the living shit out of Fuego's face. and then hits the game over, and it's a wrap for Fuego here.
It's a game over, as Lil Flip would say. And then we get a little bit of a mini afterbirth.
Yeah, we get a surprise after the commercial break. Sammy Guevara coming down the ring with Tony Khan, gives Tony Khan a nice big hug. And what's this? What's Sammy got in his hand, Brian?
A little clipboard with a little piece of paper attached to it.
And that can only mean one thing.
He's challenging him to a death match. He is offering his best friend, evidently from Alabama, a contract to AEW. And that's the gimmick in the story that he got offered. I think it'd be better if it was a shoot. Like if they just told him, like, hey, listen, like they just said, the story is you got to win to get it, but you're not going to win. So sorry, but we'll keep you coming around on a match-by-match basis if they would have went out there. But I don't think that's the way it went down.
That's the way they're selling it. In the internet wrestling community, AEW is sticking to their guns that this thing was a shoot.
Oh, wow.
That they told him, you got to win to get the contract, but we're just going to keep you around on a unsigned basis. But they did surprise him, supposedly. Sammy tells Fuego that everybody loves him, gives Fuego the contract to sign. Fuego's bawling his eyes out, super emotional, and he did a good job acting if this was all the work.
Yeah, well, nonetheless, God bless. The kid gets to come and work, make money by wrestling. So, hey, I'm great. Why not? Is he impressive? No. Did I remember him? Not until you said we were going to go over this match again, and I forgot that this match happened because it was it comes and goes. It was just another Rusev squash match, right? So, but maybe he'll find his spot, and crazier things have happened.
And like I said, it's all inclusive wrestling. Arn Anderson's kids already got a contract. Hook, Taz's son's already got a contract. Brody Lee's son's already got a contract.
Wow. I'll let the Brody Lee's one slide.
Marco Stunt is contracted to AEW. So yeah, if there's any type of internet following behind somebody, they'll sign them.
All right. So we're on our way. We're on our way. Keep us going, people. We're going to be the next commentators for their next show.
Yes. And just hype us up a little bit, and then we'll get contracts too. Mark Henry has this weird setup because you can't have the babyface and the heel in the same room, which I suspect they were in the same room. But he's got one camera with Red Velvet, one camera with Britt Baker. They talk a little shit and blah, blah, blah on to the Red Velvet Britt Baker match.
Yes, they can't. They can't combine them. That's like they would explode. It's like a powder keg, Eric. They'd be in the same room. They'd murder each other. So yes, they had them separated, coming in via satellite, if you will. And then was their match immediately following that?
Yeah, that's what I have in my notes anyway. Like I said, this thing was only 60 minutes, so we had to cram it all together.
Yes, sir.
This match actually started off pretty good. Britt Baker, I probably say this every week. She's improving more and more every week. She's got the bitch heel gimmick down. She's got the audience in the palm of her hand, since of course they're in Britsburg, and her wrestling, a la Adam Cole, her boyfriend, I believe, is the one training her behind the scenes. She's killing it. Red Velvet's not too shabby either, and we're getting tons of arm holds. We're getting tons of reversals, and everything's going rather clean with these two.
This is a very similar idea they had going on that we just spoke about with Kenny Omega and Christian Cage. You had a person that knows what to do, and then you had a person that knows how to do it. And you put them together, and voila, you had something you could stare at.
Right, and I wasn't immediately rushing for the fast forward button on this match. I actually watched it all the way through. Red Velvet, even though she's supposed to be the babyface, is constantly going after Britt's injured wrist, but how could you pass up, that's awfully tempting with a cast on her wrist. Red Velvet at one point escapes a lockjaw and takes the cast off of Britt Baker's arm and throws it out of the ring, keeps going after the arm. We're just getting complete back and forth, which I don't mind in this match, because even though I think Britt is leaps and bounds above Red Velvet, they've pushed Red Velvet so hard as a legitimate top contender that I don't mind that this is a 50-50 match.
Right. The thing that I think they should have worked a little, or not worked on, but worked differently, is this was very similar to Brett in the Canadian versus U.S. gimmick that he had back in the 90s, because they were in Britsburg, so it's a smaller version of that. So it was hard to tell who's heel, who's face, who's good guy, who's bad guy. Brit's technically always the heel, but she's in her hometown, so she's going to be put over like crazy. So they should have had her work a little cleaner and had Red Velvet work a little more dirty, if you will, or a little more heelistic, and that would have worked on Red Velvet's long-term, capabilities in the world of professional wrestling, that she could have been like, okay, working heel, I'm working this, and you could have worked a little more heel being in Pittsburgh working against Britt, but I think they could have played that up a little more.
Yeah, they could have, but they did sprinkle it in just enough Red Velvet stirring things up by going after that injured wrist so much.
That it worked. They did some of that. I was thinking too a little bit more just in the promo version, cuts of it. Like they could have been like, they could have. It was just like there wasn't enough shit talking about being in Pittsburgh and not being in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh sucks, and they could have worked some of that in there too. But I digress. We move on.
Yeah. We get some impressive moves from Britt here. A nice shoulder breaker. And I absolutely love that Britt Baker uses the curb stomp. She stomped the shit out of Velvet's face here. And then we're ramping up to the end here. Red Velvet puts Britt Baker in her own move, the lockjaw. Britt Baker reverses it. Red Velvet slams Britt Baker's injured wrist on the mat. Baker flips the script, does a reverse lockjaw on her, and uses her left hand to get the tap out for the win. And Britt Baker retains the championship in Britsburg as expected.
Yes. I didn't see Britt dropping it here. I didn't see her dropping it in Pittsburgh, and it would have just been a little wacky. I honestly didn't see Kenny Omega dropping that title either, but that surprised me. But that was also good for the first show. But I didn't see Britt Baker dropping hers.
Right, by no means, especially in Pittsburgh. But we get a little post-match beat down here. Britt Baker swinging net breaker, and she's setting up. She's got the belt on the ring apron, or on the ring there. She's going to curb stomp Red Velvet's face right into the belt. Chris Statlander saves the day though, and is immediately after fending off Britt Baker and Rebel here. Chris Statlander is immediately attacked by the return of UK wrestler Jamie Hayter.
Oh, the return?
Hayter.
She left? She was here?
Flipped the script. Right. We haven't seen her in damn near 2 years. And I had saw some of on the Squared Circle subreddit there on Reddit. I had seen some shit about Jamie Hayter returning, and her old look. I remember I was so brutal to her last time she was on AEW TV. She looked like 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, and her outfit looked like she got it at Ross for less. And she just had nasty red hair, and she looked rough.
I do not remember her at all. Like when they were like, "It's Jamie Hayter." Oh my God, what's his stupid face there? Excalibur screaming about, "Oh my God!" I'm like, I don't remember her. I'm looking her up right now. I don't remember her at all. I still don't remember her.
She had one match, and she just looked like a white trash flea market dwelling, smoked a pack a day. And
I see that.
And then she just went ahead, lost a ton of weight. She got some like Britt Baker-esque ring gear that looks like it cost a few $100. Dyed her hair blonde. Watched some YouTube tutorials on makeup, and she completely turned things around. And I might be a hater fan now.
You might be a hater?
I might be a hater because it's the accent that puts it over the top. You know me, Brian. I love me a UK accent.
I thought you were going to say she looked up YouTube and how to be a professional wrestler.
I haven't seen her work yet. Apparently, she's going to have a match coming up here pretty soon. So we'll get to see if she learned how to wrestle in the meantime.
This is where I think AEW dropped the ball again, is that they didn't reiterate that Britt was going to bring somebody in to watch hers and Rebel's back. I forgot about it. She brought it up.
I also forgot about it, yeah.
She brought it up in that promo a couple weeks ago, and then they didn't talk about it for a couple weeks. And then this run-in, and I'm like, who's this person wearing a ski mask? Who is this? And then I just didn't understand what was happening for a second. I was like, okay, she's there to help her. And then it finally all clicked, like, oh, this is that thing that was supposed to, that she's going to bring somebody in for. I just think they just assume we remember everything at all times.
That's what AEW does. Either they'll bring up something, completely forget about it for a month, and then just kind of bring it back like you guys should have known. Or they'll spend 15 minutes on a fucking vignette for somebody that nobody gives two flying shits about, like Peter Yang from the east side of New Japan. Like, he's going to wrestle in a fucking panties in a vending machine on a pole match. and they'll play a fucking half an hour vignette to hype him up. But Britt Baker's going to bring in a bodyguard basically to watch her back. And then it's like, what, you assholes didn't remember when she shows up in a ski mask?
Yeah, and then somebody who hasn't wrestled on their show in 2 years, like, oh my God, and it looks different too. Different makeup, different colored hair, lost 25 pounds, and you're going, it's her! I can't believe, who's her? Who the hell is this person? Could have just been it could have been the fucking cotton candy salesman from the audience. I didn't know who this lady was.
And before that was the end of Rampage here, but before we kick into Dynamite, we're going to touch on the subject we talked about earlier, Brian. Apparently, rumor has it that Kenny Omega was scheduled to lose that AAA championship to Andrade El Idolo, but Tony Khan and the rest of the AEW staff there felt it would make Kenny look bad if he was to lose 2 of his belts back to back. And go figure, who would think that losing 2 title matches in 2 weeks or 1 week, I don't even know how they fell, would have made him look bad. So I don't know how that originally was even scripted, that he was supposed to lose to Andrade.
What
do you think that was planned before Christian was going to win the Impact belts?
What pull does Tony Khan have in another promotion? Does he have any stroke with this guy? Like, hey, I let you use my guy. Like, he can't lose the belt. Is that it? Like, I lend you a deal. I lent you a favor for you using one of my boys. I sent him over to you. And
I believe that's the meat and potatoes of it. He basically said, if you want Kenny for your show, he can't lose.
So I wonder if he had they had stroke in the Impact Championship too, where they're like, all right, well, this will be good for our show, so we're going to let Christian win your belt on our show. Or they just like, okay, like.
Well, yeah, Impact, if they can get any publicity out of anything, they'll take it.
It's Impact at the end of the day, God bless. But it's just weird to me. But personally, it would have made more sense to have him lose. In a long term, the belt collector's falling apart. What is a better comeback story than losing the Impact? Losing the AAA championship. I thought they should have had the Young Bucks lose their tag team championship. The Elite is falling apart. What can we do? Then the Elite can come back.
Then you can start putting the Bullet Club back together.
Or the Elite,
make a comeback story.
Or the Elite can fall apart and be rebuilt in a different fashion. So I thought it was like, oh, man, this is it. I'm going to see, like, I bet you he loses. I saw that thing pop up on Sunday from AAA, and I was like, he didn't lose. And then none of it, just the same old shit. I thought we were going to get creative booking for a half second and see a long-term storytelling between multiple countries now at this point and multiple promotions, but didn't happen.
Nope. Tony Khan threw his weight around. Kenny's only losing 1 belt this month.
And it's on his show. Maybe if they're going to lose the AAA championship on their show, it would have been okay. If you're going to lose it on AEW TV.
Yeah, I don't know. Now that you brought up that point, like, AAA can do whatever the hell they want. And
give me my belt back.
Right. So I don't know how things are going to work out with that. I'm I'm almost 100% sure Kenny Omega is going to retain the AEW championship when it comes to the pay-per-view.
Oh, of course.
But I was also 95% sure that he was going to beat Christian. So I don't know.
Yeah, touche. Who knows? But that was Rampage. I thought they did an okay job, but it was the first show, so we'll see if they can keep some momentum going. Notice they're going on at 10 o'clock, and if my memory serves me correct, SmackDown is from 8 to 10. So they went there for a 8 to 10, and now you get a 10 to 11 continuing a professional wrestling. Smart move. Go Fridays, but don't get in the mix on a competition. Just jump on professional wrestling. People are on a high from watching wrestling and continue an hour. I think it's a smart move. I think it's all right. I don't think it's a bad thing. If they would have went 8 to 10 or 10 to 11 or 9 to 10, that would have been dumb.
Yeah, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other. You want to do a show on Friday night, you don't want to go head to head with a network show like SmackDown. But in the other vein, by going on right as SmackDown's going off the air, I don't know how many of SmackDown watchers you're going to pull over to TNT, because 3 hours of wrestling is a lot of wrestling to watch in one night. One of the main reasons you and I don't watch Raw on Monday nights. If we watch it, we're watching the Hulu version with entrances cut out.
Yeah, I get that. But, you got to also look at maybe who they're aiming at, right? A 14-year-old Eric and Brian would have 15-year-old Eric and Brian would have watched all 3 hours because what else am I doing on a Friday night at 14 years old?
Right. True. So we'll see how this works out, and we will definitely, on top of SummerSlam that we're going to be covering next week, we will be covering this week's episode of Rampage, because the little clues just keep falling into place. A couple weeks ago, you had Kenny Omega in the Cookie Monster shirt, which CM Punk has said the CM stands for. This week, Kenny Omega was in a Chick Magnet shirt, which CM Punk has famously said the CM stands for. You got them pumping up Rampage and using Darby Allin's promo where he's talking about best in the world. So unless they really pull a fast one on us and want to piss off everybody in Chicago, CM Punk's going to debut on Rampage this week, and I think we definitely need to cover that, Brian.
Yeah, I would say it's either going to be CM Punk or Daniel Bryan, if not both, but something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. They've put so much energy into this. Don't want to miss Chicago. We're going to be in Chicago. Everything in Chicago. It's coming in Chicago, and all the little hints that you've seen in the pipe bomb style promo that MJF cut on Jericho, just like CM Punk did on Cena, all very similar. I did see a fantasy thing online today on Instagram. It was saying like that Punk shouldn't be there and that his music should hit. They should have Cult of Personality play and have MJF come out and cut a promo on the crowd for being a bunch of marks.
That would be Midnight Express NWA 1986 heat. If MJF pulled that, he would have chairs.
That's what we call white heat. That's some white heat right there. That's that heat. That's when you had to go check yourself. You didn't get stabbed leaving the building.
He would definitely need an escort out of that building and out of Chicago, for that matter.
You just hear, look in my eyes. MJF comes out and flips them all off. You bunch of fucking marks.
I love it. I want that to happen more than CM Punk to come back now. We'll talk about MJF in this later on in this episode of Dynamite, but man, he is a heat seeker, and that would definitely be the cherry on top of the sundae. But we're moving into last night's episode of AEW Dynamite. We start this thing off hot. Mox and Kingston are entering the arena, and they get a humongous pop from the crowd, and that is short-lived though, Brian.
Yeah, Mox and Kingston. These guys are I wasn't sure about putting them together as a group or a tag team or whatever you want to call them, but they seem to work well together. I think Moxley needs somebody, even though he doesn't need somebody, if that makes sense. And Kingston fits that because he doesn't need anybody either, but they just roll together.
Yeah, they are definitely two peas in a pod. They're peas and carrots, peanut butter and jelly. And But unfortunately, this thing gets screwed up by new signees 2.0 and Jerry Garcia because they bum rush Mox and Kingston and immediately put the boots to him. The Screamer of 2.0 immediately gets a hold of the mic and calls out Darby Allin and Sting. And just because these assholes called somebody out, immediately the lights go out, Sting's music hits, and the announcer's like, the next match is scheduled for one fall. Was this match scheduled to be the first thing? I thought Mox and Kingston had something to do.
Yeah, I thought that I saw that. I can't remember now. I thought I saw that it was a promo, like that AEW put out all those. They always put out those match pictures like on Instagram and everything. And I thought that they just had a match, but maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe they just said they were going to be there, and that's what it was. But nonetheless, yeah, it was just very random. And here we go. Sting's coming out. Here's Darby Allin, and we're going to fight two jagoffs. I'm sticking with that since Christian brought it back in my my vocabulary. I don't know why they're giving these guys so much screen time with decent wrestlers.
Yeah, I don't know if I guess I don't pay too much attention to the indie scene. I don't know if 2.0 is a big name out there, but they stink. And they are giving them a lot of mic time and a lot of TV time.
Yeah, I don't get it. I've never heard of them either. And like you said, like it just doesn't make sense to me that they come out and they get all this this TV time, this mic time. They get to fight guys, Kingston and Moxley. Now they're getting to fight Sting and Darby Allin. Love or hate Sting and Darby Allin, but they're still AEW, right? They're the guys in AEW. They're the top guys in AEW, whether you think so or whether you like them or not. The promotions put them there. So you're going, these essentially jobbers. These guys are Saturday morning satin jacket wearers, like already in the ring, no entrance music.
Right. I don't know what the heat is behind these guys that everybody wants to see them and how they got signed so quick, especially with all the NXT talent just being released left and right and main roster talent being released left and right. I would kind of slow my roll on signing just any indie guy that has any chatter about him on the internet. I would pause my signees until I really have a pool where I want to nail independent guys down, you know?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to letting them come into the ring, or not come into the ring, but yes, of course they got to come into the ring. It's professional wrestling. But let them come into your promotion, and, you call them up when you're in town, or if your paths cross, or, you keep in contact and say you want to pop on tonight and do something, but it doesn't have to be an investment. You need to stay invested in John Moxley. You need to stay invested, again, like him or hate him, Kenny Omega. You need to stay invested with these guys. And some young talent, but not every person, every young talent that steps through the curtain. Like, hey, that's it. You're all elite, in Fuego Salsa Del Rio, whatever his name was, that was fought earlier on Rampage. Sorry, who cares? Let him come and hang out. He'll figure it out. Keep showing up.
Put him on a few weeks of Dark and see how he does. Maybe he already did it because I don't watch Dark.
Always have your tights and your boots, kid. Who knows when we get called up? You might need to be in a match at some point. You might need to be a security guard. You get paid. Don't worry about it.
But, yeah, enough talk about the jobbers. We're going to get into this match here. This also is being pushed as a huge deal because this is Sting's first wrestling match on TNT. And what is it, 25 years, something like that?
Yeah.
20 years?
Yeah, it was like what?
Something like that.
It was 2001, so 20 years.
Okay, 20 years. But this wasn't exactly what we call a wrestling match here. They're in the ring for a little bit, and we get a couple stinger splashes. We get a couple back elbows, and then immediately we're outside of the ring. We're fighting through the arena, and this is definitely to protect Sting here because I think it's a lot easier to fake fight through an arena than it is to actually put on a good wrestling match in a ring.
Not only that, but they're keeping Sting tied up with tag team stuff and produced tag team stuff like they did with Taz's thing at that warehouse or whatever they did on that pay-per-view or whatever it was. So it's all been Hollywood matches, cinematic style matches, or tag team matches. Sting hasn't been putting any single stuff yet, so he can let the young kid carry it. Sting comes in, pounds his chest, does a Stinger scream, splashes in the corner, does his move, and calls it a day. And then they added to it the next layer, like you were just saying, with the Texas Tornado Rules match, where anything goes and you can go on the outside. And it's supposed to look sloppy because, you can't predict that outside there, right? It's all unpredictable. So if you slip and you fall and you move and you look funny, hey, man, you're fighting in a bathroom and on the concrete, so who cares?
Yep. And, once this match just started getting sloppy and went into the concession stands and all that, that's what it was. It was just sloppy and who cares. But Darby Allin, even though he's 100 feet from a wrestling ring, still's got to get his dives in. He's doing the balance beam walk down a rail and dives into, coincidentally, all three guys, 2.0 and Jerry Garcia, are hugging in the in the middle of the audience.
The only thing I can give him
Darby Allin.
The only thing I can give him is that Sting wasn't in the middle of that.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Usually you add them all in. Sting was like, I'm all right. There's three of them over there. And then we get a surprise run-in and a boot for your troubles to Jerry Garcia, right? From Eddie Kingston. Wasn't this right about the spot? Eddie came in and booted him in the face and took him out of the match?
That's right. So Mox and Kingston were out for the count and just kind of disappeared earlier, and then Kingston pops his head up, gets a little cameo, and gives Jerry Garcia a mouthful of boot.
Mouthful of Timberlands. I love how we call him Jerry Garcia. I couldn't tell you his real name if we wanted to right now.
Me either. I'll be honest with you. I'm usually just fucking around when I rename these guys, but I legitimately can't think of his real first name here.
Something Garcia. I know that much.
And I'll tell you one other thing. Darby Allin is a fucking idiot, Brian.
Yeah.
So Darby, he's always got to get his stupid skateboard involved. And this time he took it to another level. We get the skateboard, board down, sticky tape down,
trucks and wheels up.
Wheels and trucks up. And this dumb motherfucker lets both 2.0 guys double suplex him right onto the trucks and the wheels of his skateboard. Now, let me put this into perspective here. Darby's what, 25? He's in his mid-20s, I believe. Sting is in his 60s, and he's still putting on matches. We'll use that word loosely. Jericho's in his 50s, and he's still putting on better than the average matches. Christian is in his 40s, and he's still doing great matches. Taking suplexes onto skateboard axles and being thrown down concrete steps and falling off of skateboard ramps on a regular basis is one way to guarantee that you're going to go into early retirement and be in a wheelchair by your 30th birthday. Definitely not a good thing for longevity of your bank account there. I don't expect to see Darby Allin in his 60s in a wrestling ring.
To make your point even a little more pungent there, Eric, is that he's 28. So he's almost 30 as it is, and he's still taking these spots. And to top off the spot, not one guy in the commentator booth knew what he was suplexed on. Tony Schiavone said he got suplexed on the skateboard wheels, on the axles, on the bottom of the skateboard, and then finally Excrement screams out, "The trucks!" Like he just remembered, like somebody's screaming at him from production, or he hopped on this Google machine real quick and looked it up. But it was like, oh my God, Tony Schiavone, you sound like a 60-year-old white man.
Yes, I did. I had to throw the axles in there for Tony Schiavone because he was screaming it, and
he was trying to say it like Jim Ross didn't say a word. Excrement hadn't said anything about it, so Tony's trying to he took that on the skateboard there on the wheels, on those axles, on the and then nobody. Jim Ross going, I don't know what the fuck it's called. I'm from Oklahoma and I'm 80 years old. I've never skateboarded. Excrement goes, I wear a mask everywhere I go. I can't even see this. I can't see anything. I'm going to sue everyone. He can't see out of his mask.
I wish I was wearing a mask during this match so I couldn't see. But Darby, I guess he sells it. I don't think you really had to sell that. But that gave Sting enough time to be isolated in the ring while 2.0 works on him. And they're being quite ginger with the Stinger here. But again, what choice do you have? If you're forcing somebody to wrestle Sting, you got to wrestle him like you're wrestling a porcelain doll.
Well, yeah, look what happened when Seth Rollins faced him at, like, what was that, at WrestleMania that year? He gave him a buckle bomb in the ring, and then they had to take Sting out in an ambulance. And all Seth Rollins could yell was, Sting, I was you for Halloween. That was his response. He didn't know what to say.
Yeah, so they're being quite ginger with Sting until they decide to put him through a table. And Sting fucking no-sells the table spot. Darby appears out of nowhere. Apparently he had back surgery, and he's back in action. Darby double drop kicks 2.0. Sting does a double scorpion death drop, and all I could think about was that mouthful of armpit that both of them boys were taking. A sweaty 62-year-old armpit in your mouth, and then you got to take a flat back bump.
Yeah, the double scorpion death drop, the double scorpion death lock to win it.
That was cringy.
Trash. That was the stupidest thing I ever saw. If anything, I thought they were going to incorporate a coffin drop into the Scorpion Deathlock, which would have like sold it for me for a half a second at least, that he would have turned him over, and then Darby would have been, like, so he wouldn't have had to have hold him for the tap out, but he would have turned it over, sat back a little bit, boom, Darby could have coffin dropped onto the top of those two numbskulls, made a sandwich out of it, and rolled them over and pinned one or two of them, and bada boom. But no, they held on to this double Scorpion Deathlock for a tap out. Who was the league? I guess it was a Texas death match. As anybody can tap, I guess. But yeah, that sucked.
It stunk. The whole thing. First of all, you got an old, feeble senior citizen stacking two young, able-bodied men on top of each other.
Yeah,
and somehow managing to get all four of their legs under your arms and managing to turn them both over and get in a Scorpion Deathlock there. And they tap. It's like, you got to think, just from the separation, one of them isn't having very much pressure applied in this deathlock, but they're both tapping like fucking Louis Armstrong out there.
Yeah, that was garbage. I can look past a lot of the other stuff. It was a Texas death match. You can let it go, this and that, the nonsense, but that double death, I just went, watching it. I cringed. But what the hell happened after that, Eric?
After that, Brian, we get a nice heartfelt moment here. We had one in the show before, and now we have one with Sammy Guevara in the ring, and he's got his girlfriend in the ring, and he is down on one knee, and he proposes to his girlfriend. Sammy Guevara is now engaged, and immediately after that, we get Shawn Spears cutting a promo on her and saying, "Slim pickings here in Houston, huh?"
I didn't know if he was supposed to be shitting on Sammy or if he was supposed to be shitting on his girlfriend, but nonetheless, it was a rough one. But
I loved it. And Shawn Spears, for you guys who don't know, is married to Billy Kay. No, not Billy Kay. Married to the other iconic. Cassie Lee, I think her name is. So, he's got himself a top tier wrestling girl there, so he felt very confident shitting on Sammy's fiance here.
Yeah, so Sammy gets his engagement earlier in the night, probably during the dark taping, and they play that in, and then you get a Shawn Spears Sammy Guevara match leading us into this next match, I believe, right?
Yeah, and Shawn Spears jumps the gun on Sammy here, but Sammy immediately takes control, and he gets Shawn Spears off of the ramp, and Sammy just balls to the wall, man. Does this crazy cannonball at full speed from a full sprint, cannonballs off of the ramp, and thank God Shawn Spears was in the right place at the right time, because if Sammy missed that one, He'd be in the emergency room right next to Darby Allin.
Yeah, getting their backs fixed. This was very confusing for me because I wasn't positive that this was another Texas death match. I didn't know because they were in Texas. All of them were death matches all night, so I didn't know what was happening. It just comes to find out it was just a bunch of nonsense. It was a bunch of pre-birth, as you like to refer to it as afterbirth. It was a bunch of nonsense that happened because they didn't get into the ring officially. They, Aubrey Edwards is just hands are tied. I can't stop them, guys. I'm just a referee for a match. They're just fighting on the outside. They've never been in to officially start the match.
Yeah, that was my very next line I wrote. I don't know if this is a match or not. And before they even get into the ring, Sean Spears has Sammy Guevara in a pile driver position on the outside of the ring, and Tully Blanchard jumps off of the stairs and helps with the pile driver on the floor. Then they roll back in the ring, and we're just going to go ahead and ring the bell and start this match as if nothing happened. This is just a normal start.
Now, I don't mind when they do these things, these type of jump the start matches, whatever. WWE does them fairly often, but what WWE adds into it to give that real fight feel is the ref will go to the guy who got beat up on the outside and, doing the eye contact thing, like giving them a sobriety test on the side of the road there, like they were pulled over from drinking and driving, and then asking them, do you want to continue? You can opt out of this. Like, you just got messed up. Do you want to just tap out and walk away? And then, John Cena's already bloody because it's usually him, right? And he goes, no, I got this. And it's, the perfect comeback story, usually. So they didn't. AEW just said, both guys in the ring. Ding, 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 ding. Match starts.
Don't even check on the guy who might have broke his neck by taking a pile driver on the concrete.
Right.
Just go ahead and start the match.
And then at least, though, when they went back, it started. So now the match is officially started. They go back out to the outside, and they get him up to do a spike pile driver again. And then now they've ejected Tully.
And Tully gets super animated in this, too. He is really playing it up in the heel manager gimmick. And he really gets into it with Ref Aubrey. But ultimately, Tully is ejected from ringside.
I thought something was going to happen when he took off his jacket and started hitting the ropes, and he kind of hitting Aubrey to get her attention. I thought maybe we were going to see a run-in of some kind, and to be honest with you, we didn't see nothing that was extravagantly life-changing in the match. It was just it happened. There was no real dirty tactics from Sean Spears. There was no big run-in. There was no anything. It was just, I'm like, why is he taking off his jacket and freaking out so much? But he just wanted to be on TV for an extra 5 seconds.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe he's trying to get Ric Flair's attention to bring him over there and get the Three Horsemen gimmick started again. But Sammy is just full of piss and vinegar. He is all excited after his engagement there. He is all over the place. He attempts a off the top rope cutter and just ends up taking an incredible flat back bump that he committed to 1,000%. Then we go to commercial and we come back and we've got a guardrail, Brian, just magically appeared out of nowhere during the commercial break. This guardrail is laid across the gap between the ring and the other guardrails, I guess you got to say.
Yeah, okay, so I thought I missed that when they got put up, but it just got put up during the picture-in-picture because I ain't watching that horse shit.
Yeah, me neither. Just awesome, smooth spots between these guys. Sean Spears is a hell of a worker. I'm not a big fan of him because he doesn't have anything that really hooks you into his gimmick.
He loves chairs. He loves chairs.
Yeah. And for whatever that's worth, that's really not going to draw me in. But we eventually do see this guardrail get utilized when Sammy hits a Death Valley driver onto the guardrail on Spears there and bent that sumbitch right in half. Sean Spears took a hell of a bump on that thing.
Yeah, that didn't look pleasant. Not at all. Again, we're doing this stuff for free TV. I commend them for putting their bodies on the line, but I think you should make the payday worth it. I don't know if free TV on TNT is worth it.
And then in true AEW fashion, they can't end a match on the logical ending point after the guardrail spot. Sammy hits a 630 senton on Spears and gets a 2 count. So Death Valley Driver on a guardrail, 630 senton, gets a 2 count, and that would have been a fantastic ending. He would have got a crazy pop, but instead they drag it out for one more spot so Sammy can hit the GTH, and then he gets the pin, and that just kind of took the edge off the finish there, Brian. It just kind of flattened it out.
Yeah, there was that big spin 630 Sinton nonsense was impressive visually. Physically, I don't think spinning in the air makes it hurt anymore by landing on a guy, but that's just my.
You get the momentum, Brian.
I just went to my couple of classes in physics class that I've had. I don't think spinning makes you land harder, but nonetheless, it's impressive. It shows how high he was that he can do that and whatever else. It was great visually. But and then we went to the other thing, and I'm gonna be honest with you, just watched it all last night and everything, and I didn't remember the GTH. Like what I'm getting at is I remember the visual 630. I don't remember the second,
right.
the third spot. By the time we got to the finish.
And that's what I'm saying. That just accentuates the point. The pen after the 630 would have been a lot more memorable instead of dragging it out for a forgettable GTH.
It also shits on the fact that he can do the 630, so why do all that if guys are just going to kick out?
Right. We go to the back, and Tony Schiavone's with Christian Cage. He doesn't get very many words out of his mouth before Don Callis interrupts, and Don Callis is gold, man.
Oh.
When he's a
shithead, and you hate him, but you like him, but you hate him. You hate him because you're supposed to hate him. Right.
Just incredibly talented, just knows how to get under your skin, and you believe every word he says, and you think, I mean, I don't know Don Callis from Adam, but I think in my mind, he's a fucking prick.
Oh, come on. Everybody remembers Cyrus the Virus from ECW just before they went out of business, and you also remember him rolling with the Oddities, right? He was what's his nuts from
Yeah, with the blue glasses. I can't remember his name, but
who gives a shit?
Yeah, and then Dan Lambert is back, and
Oh.
he's in the ring with a couple of cage fighters.
Oh,
and he's
fucking
doing
cool.
his best attempt at cutting a promo like a meth head Jim Cornette, and you're not Jimmy.
He does okay.
I mean,
he does okay with that old school feel. Like again, this is a guy that makes you hate him. I'm not a protest like to fight for old wrestling and be like, oh, like whatever, but man, or the save the new wrestling and all this shit. I'm not on the side of AEW in this argument. I'm just on the side of this guy's a douche and he sells it pretty good. I didn't understand the going above and beyond of getting Junior Dos Santos and Andrei Arlovsky in the ring.
I guess because Lambert was attacked by Lance Archer last time.
He was attacked by Lance Archer last time, and he had Olympic-style wrestlers with him, and contractually they're not obligated to step into a professional wrestling ring. They're not allowed to. So he brought MMA. He called his good friend Dana White and got some guys to come hang out with him. But so he talks more shit. He goes on and on and on and on. He's really getting under the crowd's skin. He's doing his job. And boom, who comes out to finally interrupt him again? Lance Archer. But then gets interrupted by Scorpio Sky and the other guy.
I honestly, I think the thing with Dan Lambert is, to be honest with you, I don't know who the fuck he is. And therefore, I don't give a fuck what he thinks about wrestling. I don't care about his opinion. Some of the same opinions on TV are the same opinions I have. But because it's Dan Lambert, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, like I had never heard of Dan Lambert before his first time that he came on and started yelling as creating this thing. But then he brought two killers to watch his back, but then supposedly set up two jabronis to jump Lance Archer, right? Because he's like clapping that they came out. It's like, why didn't you have Andre and you've got Andre Arlovsky and Junior Dos Santos, two bad motherfuckers in the ring, and you couldn't have them put a working chokehold on somebody?
Nope. You bring him in for nothing, just to be seen,
Gives a fuck.
so that Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky can get some TV time.
Ethan Page,
And
that's the other guy.
this is my basement booking moment right here. So they're I think they're kind of tickling to get heat with a Jim Cornette style promo, talking shit on AEW.
Sure.
I personally feel they could have got a lot more heat because Cornette's name does float around the AEW locker room. I think they could have Venmo'd him $10K and had him cut a promo and aired it on TV, and it would be from the heart. Jim Cornette believes every word he says about AEW, and you could have got Earth's core heat, fucking Mercury heat on TV if you would have had Jim Cornette cut a promo on the guys, even if it was via satellite, even if it was via Cameo.
Yeah,
you could have got a lot more heat than the Dan Lambert spot.
You could have probably sent him $20 on Cameo. He would have cut you a thing.
Yeah, it was only $149 for a Jimmy Cornette Cameo. So for a measly $149, Tony Khan could have got intense heat.
Yeah, I just don't. The thing, like you said, I don't know who he is, and I don't care. So I can't figure out why they keep trying to make me care. And then to bring, that's like when WWE brought Tyson in. If he wouldn't have done anything, he just stood there. Like, I mean, AEW brought Tyson in, and he just stood there too. So who cares?
Yeah, and supposedly, just on a quick offshoot here, apparently WWE was trying to get Tyson for SummerSlam this year, but that fell through. But that would have been kind of funny because he's been chumming around with the likes of AEW and Snoop Dogg and all that. So it would have been kind of cool to see him on WWE TV for SummerSlam.
Yeah, jumping back and forth. What do we got after this nonsense left? And then they continued to not tell that story again. Because why didn't they go backstage with this in like a segment or two and be like, have Dan Lambert one more time and be like, we set you up. I don't have to bring my killers. Like, I can get these guys to do it, and I can bring them in as a manager. They don't. Anytime they just go to Texas, is this guy going to come out and scream at us for 20 minutes and waste my time?
Just one and done, offshoot, off the cuff.
Ugh.
But we go to the back, and there's a lot of talking in this episode too. Dynamite's been having a lot of chatter these past few weeks. Jericho cuts his promo. He's endured 4 weeks of hell, and it was all worth it, because he gets to fight MJF tonight. And that's when the idea popped into my head, Brian. There's nothing at stake.
No.
It's simply revenge from a match from 4 months ago. Something like that. That's the only reason Jericho is been fighting tooth and nail to get his hands on MJF. There's no title at stake. There's no stipulation at stake. It's just, oh, I finally get to fight MJF and see if I can beat him. Who gives a shit?
Well, you're right. There should have been a stipulation stating, you don't get to fight me again. We're done with this, Jericho. I beat you, and you never get to challenge me again, whether I have the title or not, whether you win #1 contendership or not, right? And they could have worked a long storytelling with that and put the strap on MJF where it's going to belong in a little bit here, and then had Jericho earn a title shot and then not be able to get it because he lost. Like, it'd be awesome.
There you go. Put something at stake there. Even have something where MJF is risking something. But this was just, it ended up, we'll get to it in a little bit here, but it was just, I don't know. There's just nothing on the line for this match. So it really didn't matter all that much. It was just a skit, so to speak.
And not only did it not matter, Jericho went and screwed everything up in his promo and gave away what we all knew was going to happen, but you don't want to know, right? You know your Christmas present you're getting from your mom. You give your mom three ideas. Your mom goes, what do you want for Christmas? You give her 3 things. You show up and you go, oh, wow, look at that. I got the 3 things from the Amazon link that I sent you. But you don't want to know, right? So you still sit down and you open the presents and life is fun. We know Jericho's getting sang in by the crowd. We said it last week. They sing it in.
Everybody knows it.
They sing it in when he's in the music playing. They're going to sing him in. He's the hot shit right now. Everybody loving Jericho, right? They want to be a part of that. And he goes, no Judas effect, no Judas music, but you know what? My fans will sing me in. Well, what am I waiting for? So now there's nothing at stake, and we get to watch the people sing you in. Like, it should have been more dramatic to it. Why give it away?
All it would have took was a commentator saying Jericho gonna have to enter the arena tonight to dead silence, and just play it up like that. He's gonna have to walk in with no music behind him and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, it's, even though we knew it was coming, it's still somewhat of a
There it
it's
is.
an aha moment. There it is.
There it is. It happened. All right, we called it. But like, he said it, and I think he said it to make sure it was going to happen.
His ego is way too
He's
fragile
like, fuck,
to
man.
risk it.
If they don't do, like, they're going to do it. But if they don't, I should say it in my promo. Ruined it. Shit all over it. JR put on there about what we thought of, and he put on something on Instagram about that match, and I said it would have been better if Jericho wouldn't have gave away the singing entrance and ruined it all in the promo. I doubt nobody's going to read it, obviously, but it made me feel good for the moment.
Oh, I would have loved it if he came out to dead silence, but we will get to that in a moment here. Next, we got a barn burner here. We've got Jurassic Express with the Glizzy Gobbler, Marco Stunt in their corner versus the Young Bucks and their entire squad, minus Kenny Omega, in their corner. So I think we have a pretty good idea how this thing's going to turn out.
Yeah. If you take off your professional wrestling glasses and you put on your AEW wrestling glasses and you watch this match, it wasn't that bad. It was.
No, it wasn't a bad match at all.
There was a lot of nonsense, a lot of rigmarole up and down, people being interfered, but it was good. But, you know, if you let go of that, you care about, you know, rules and such. If you care about that kind of nonsense, it was terrible.
Well, I'll give you one guess on who the referee of this match was, Brian.
Oh, it was old Richard Knox, old dickhead himself, Richard Noggin.
Yeah. Rick Buck himself. Rick Knox, the referee.
Why
So,
haven't they ran
don't
with
worry
that
about
storyline yet? That he's always their man, that he's always the referee, and that he's involved with the Bucks, and he's involved with the Elite. The NWO had a ref. Nick Patrick ran around with he was the NWO ref. Well, why isn't they being pushed as the Elite ref? Why aren't they running with this, like, we got to look into this guy, at least something? Damn.
Yeah, I don't know why they're not playing it up. It's got to be written in the future somewhere. It writes itself. The story writes itself. Rick Knox is just coincidentally a terrible referee who doesn't enforce any rules, and he's always there during the Young Bucks match. It writes itself. But the Young Bucks always looking for a way to get heat, and it's kind of like finding an Easter egg when they do something new and they kind of pull in a new idea from old wrestling to get heat. Nick Jackson is with Jungle Boy starting off this thing, and he is just prancing around the ring. And first of all, I got douche chills. Second of all, I got such Adrian Adonis vibes off of Nick Jackson right here while he's just prancing around like a silly little schoolboy.
Adrian Adonis.
We do start this thing off with some decent wrestling, and you're like, oh, you know, this could be a serious match. But then the contrived dives start right on cue, starting with Jungle Boy. We go to commercial, and Luchasaurus is coming in with a hot tag. This is actually becoming quite an interesting match. The Young Bucks are actually feeding Luchasaurus for his comeback. Just, you know, they're coming to him. Luchasaurus don't have to chase them down to get his heat on these guys, except for one. He kind of had to walk towards one of the Jackson brothers with his hand extended so he could get a choke slam on him. That was a little goofy, but Luchasaurus is green, and not just because he wears a dinosaur mask.
Not just because he wears a dinosaur mask. I just think, again, if you just look past the nonsense, this was, you know, it was a tag team match for the age of wrestling we're in. If you want tag team wrestling from the 80s or the 90s. This is not tag team wrestling. This is not superb technical wrestling tag team style that you were going to get from the British Bulldogs taking on the Hart Foundation. This was modern day tag team wrestling for what it's worth. And, you know, the flips and the flies and the dives, as contrived as they look, they are impressive, and visually they look great on TV. They make for great highlight, TikTok, Instagram reels, but I just think it's only going to get you so far. It did get the Young Bucks to where we're at today. I know people will be like, but look where they got. But how's it going to carry on as they change, and when is their style going to evolve? Because eventually they can't do this anymore.
Right. Once they're Jericho's age, if they're still trying to make money in the wrestling business, they can't be doing this stuff. But they do mix it up a little bit in this match, as I previously stated. You get some decent wrestling, but then you do get your spots like Jungle Boy suplexing Nick Jackson off of Luchasaurus's shoulders, Luchasaurus double choke slamming the Bucks, and then little goofy shits. Always got to take you out of the moment. Matt Jackson pops right up after a choke slam, walks directly to Luchasaurus, bends sideways, and grabs Luchasaurus's waist so that, of course, Luchasaurus can get him up and do a double team move with Jungle Boy here. So just blatantly in front of the camera, in front of the audience, essentially Matt Jackson is setting himself up to take a double team move from Jurassic Express.
Just a big fuck you to everybody watching.
The Young Bucks start their comeback, and they get back-to-back super kick parties and an assisted indie taker for a 2 count. And here comes Kenny Omega. He's wearing his Chick Magnet shirt at this point. And or was that Rampage?
No, he wore his Chick Magnet shirt last night.
Oh, okay. Kenny Omega, this one spot is my favorite thing that I've ever seen old Twinkle Toes do. He laid the hottest potato chair shot into Marco Stunt's back that I ever saw. And I thought poor Marco was paralyzed, and I almost threw a party. But lo and behold, the chair shot was flat, just like it was supposed to be, and Marco was uninjured.
Yeah. And then this is where I fell apart in the match. I thought that the nonsense, it's just predictable now.
And this is right on cue, Brian. It's just, boom, let the chaos begin. First, we got Christian coming out the back. Him and Omega fight off to the back for no reason, just to get him off camera. Rick Knox, of course, gets distracted from the Good Brothers, who are acting like a couple of fucking clowns on the outside of the ring. Matt Jackson takes a brain buster on the chair, but the count's broke up by Matt Jackson. Thoracic Express from Jurassic Express, broken up by Nick Jackson. Another Jungle Boy pen attempt, broken up by Nick Jackson. And then it's just one BT trigger on Jungle Boy. After multiple finishes and multiple pen attempts from Jurassic Express, one singularity BT trigger on Jungle Boy, and it's a wrap. Yep. And then we see Christian, Jurassic Express get beat down by the Elite, all 52 members of them.
Yeah, and Christian takes a one-winged angel, and Don Callis gives a 1-2-3 count, kind of taunting what's going to happen in the future, and there you go. That's the end of that, and it just ended in typical fashion, if you ask me.
Yeah, and Excrement's got to put the cherry on top of the sundae right there and scream, "Nobody kicks out of the one-winged angel."
Somebody's going to kick out, because eventually that has to be the gimmick that nobody kicks out, right?
Right. It's just, I guess, an inside joke in the wrestling business, but Excrement just takes it to the nth degree. He gets so excited.
Well, he's
about
like
everything.
The kid in Santa Claus, like this, you're going to go see Santa Claus. You saw the one-winged angel. Nobody kicks out. It's magical. The Undertaker never loses at Wrestlemania. Dreams die, kid.
We're backstage with Britt Baker. Jamie Hayter challenges Red Velvet. And then Britt Baker wraps up her promo with her signature DMD, which Britt Baker obviously does. Rebel obviously does. Hell, even Tony Schiavone participates. But old Jamie Hayter forgets to do the DMD, and big respect to Britt Baker here. She actually acknowledges it and says, she'll get it next time. And that was just a little unplanned pop that I thought fell through.
The professionalism and the follow through of the she'll get it next time is money. That's when you know somebody's just on point.
Yeah, she's definitely quick on her feet here. We get a pre-tape promo from Matt Hardy on Wheeler Yuta and the Best Friends. And be honest, I don't really care about anything Matt Hardy or Wheeler Yuta's doing, or the Best Friends for that matter. And from this thing, the nugget we get out of this turd is that Orange Cassidy is going to challenge Matt Hardy. And that's a golden nugget in the turd because it'll give me a good reason to go get a cup of coffee and take a piss.
Literally go get one. Like I'm going to drive to Starbucks, wait in the drive-through line to come back and wonder what's going on. I won't even pause it. And then,
well, you know the match is going to be about 30 minutes, so
yeah, it's going to be a pocket on a pole match. They're going where the hell do we go from here? We got to be rounding the end of this thing here.
Oh, we got more talking, Brian.
Oh, of course.
It wouldn't be Dynamite if we didn't have
Dynamite
burning out their vocal cords here. Paul White comes down to the ring with his bootleg Big Show music.
Well, that bothered me too. I wanted to, so he's got the shirt, no more BS, okay, no Big Show BS. Everybody talks about leaving the WWE like it's like jail. It's like, well, for one, you kept signing the contracts there, Paul, right? You didn't complain when the money was being dumped in. You finally leave. You go with the no more BS. All right, little jab. It's funny. But you just like, I'm here. I get to do what I want. And then you make a knockoff Big Show song. Why don't you go a different route? Why does it got to be this bluesy rock song? There's got to be a million other ideas you could have went with for a song. But anyway, you could have just had Tony Khan fucking license you one. Something from They Might Be Giants. See what
Yeah, instead we get, well, it's not the Big Show anymore.
Well, no more BS.
Paul White's excited to be back in the ring. He's like a kid in a candy store. He actually pronounces QT Marshall's name correctly. Says Marshall. I was pretty proud of him there. QT interrupts, cuts a promo on Paul here, shows an x-ray because QT's got all the connections. Breaks into the medical facility and steals Paul White's x-rays.
HIPAA rules. Who gives a fuck about HIPAA laws and such? We're taking x-rays from doctors' offices. We're showing Big Show's ass with a 14-inch scar. You know what? It's all out the window on AEW.
Yeah, and apparently Big Show's got, what do you say, like 10 pounds of steel in his hip.
Might be a bit exaggeration, but probably not far off from that giant son of a bitch.
But what we get out of this is Paul White will be fighting QT Marshall at All Out.
Dun, dun, dun.
And it's another piss break match.
Cool. So QT Marshall is going to job to the Big Show.
We get a Jade Cargill pre-tape.
Oof.
Apparently she's fighting Kiera Hogan.
Cool.
Who gives a fuck? Tony Schiavone is in the back with the Elite. During this promo, I think Taz is cutting his promo in the ring while Schiavone's interviewing the Elite, because you just hear screaming and it sounds like a familiar voice. And then all of a sudden after this, and then it just stops. And then after this, you got Taz in the ring screaming this promo. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, the timing may have been off on that one. And then that Taz promo. Are we going to talk about that Taz part now? Was there anything else with that Elite part backstage before we jump over to Taz?
There's going to be another tag team eliminator tournament. and the winner gets a steel cage match against the Bucks, and the
Oh,
Bucks
yeah.
lose their minds. Oh my God, we got to fight in a steel cage.
Dun dun dun. Just more shit to jump off of, assholes. And then you get this Taz thing in the ring, and then he brings out Ricky Starks. So Taz and Hook are in the ring. Brings out Ricky Starks to talk at the top of the ramp. Then they insist that Brian Cage comes out to talk to Ricky, and they do this backstage thing. And Brian Cage is on the ground with Powerhouse Hobbs over top of him, but not doing anything. And then they realize the camera light's red, and then he starts beating him up some more.
Then Brian Cage starts beating up Hobbs, and then that's when Ricky Starks has a panic attack, and he's like, "Ah, we gotta get out of here!" And then Hook, Taz, and Ricky all hit the gates.
Yeah, kind of. Ricky runs out of there. He oversells it. Hook kind of runs out of there, and Taz just meanders back and slaps some high fives to people on the ring, on the down the aisleway, and just walks back like, this sucks. He could have cared less. I think he might have been mad from the promo earlier, and the pre-taped Elite thing backstage got played at the wrong time or something. So I think he felt that the momentum was gone, and he just said, screw it. But none of that made sense. And then the commentators go, I don't even know where they're at. Why?
Why play into it?
But not even play. But why give that away? They're just backstage. You don't know where that's at when you just walk around with your eyes closed. What do you mean you don't know? How big can backstage be?
You got me.
Because it was a set. I get it. It was a set, but you don't have to go, where is that place? In Kentucky. What do you think? It's 20 feet behind you, ass clown.
Who gives a shit? But back for more talking, Brian. We got Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone is working his ass off
Tony
tonight.
Schiavone getting some TV time.
Definitely. He's in the back with the Death Triangle. Pac is cutting a hell of a promo on Andrade. Pac's got passion, man. I love him. And Andrade shows up immediately. His ears are ringing. Someone was talking about him. And
they didn't see him, though, again, even though he came through the fourth wall.
Right. What a surprise. Andrade's here.
What a surprise. The guy standing next to me behind the camera got involved that I've been talking to.
And Andrade's big announcement is that he will make a big announcement about his conditions for the match sometime in the future.
I'll make an announcement about my announcement for when I'll make an announcement later.
I guess they got to get the subtitles ready for that one. If they're going to have Andrade talk for more than 30 seconds, they got to hire outside help from India to do translations.
How much does it suck to have to be Cerro De Niro and put that face paint on? He puts the mask on, and then he does the sugar skull style face paint for his bottom mandible section of his face for a backstage promo. Did he get to fight on Dark at least? Did he get to at least do something on Evolution or whatever they call it? He has to paint his face, and it's very intricate with the teeth, and you got to paint the black lines in and everything. It looks like it probably takes a while. And he just gets to go stand backstage behind Pac, and his brother just throws up gang signs doing the triangle.
And I think, Felix just has to throw a mask on, but
Felix.
Cerro De Niro's actually got his face like you just said.
Yeah.
And then they're just wearing street clothes. So it's I guess we're going to go to the mall after this, guys. Go get some Auntie Anne's pretzels. Wear your fucking gimmick. If you don't wear half a gimmick.
Half a gimmick. Get your full gimmick on, guy. Don't be a goof.
Next. Oh, this is going to be a quick one. Speaking of sugar skulls, we got Penelope Ford versus Thunder Rosa. And I got to say something about maybe she wears it all the time. I fast forward through her matches.
Are you going to talk about Penelope Ford's outfit?
Yes.
So rumor has it is that her luggage was lost and she had to fight in street clothes last night.
Okay. So they tried to put some sort of story behind it, but she is literally just wearing a fucking teddy from Adam and Eve or Lover's Lane or whatever, where you can see the thong going
There was no
straight into her
question.
butthole, and then she's wearing leather pants over it, and that's her gimmick. Fucking lingerie and leather pants.
I
And
mean,
then
if anybody can.
Ponderosa's got fucking
Ponderosa!
she got fucking fishnets on that look like a shark bit through them. Goddamn holes everywhere on her ass and everything. She's Thunder Rosa's a hell of a worker, and the rest of her ring attire was all Texased up and looked good, but then her fishnets were just look like an 8 Mile hooker.
If she, that was the rumor I saw poking around on Instagram, is that somebody said, at the real Penelope Ford or at the Penelope Ford. I think it was on Twitter they were tweeting her at, and it was like for losing her luggage and fighting in her street clothes and give her props or something. So if it's real or not, I don't know, but she definitely, I thought her outfit looked off myself. I was like, she's literally fighting some lingerie. And then at least I saw that to kind of put the story together, but something definitely was off. Poor Penelope Ford.
Yeah, I think you could have just played it off as a corset or a bustier or whatever, but the thong going straight down into her butt, that showed that she was just wearing underwear to the ring.
Wearing her underoos, definitely.
But
why didn't they just
I
play that
don't.
into the story then?
They
It was
should have.
creative.
Would have been more interesting than the match. I feel bad for Thunder Rosa here that she had to work with Penelope Ford. Blame it on the street clothes or whatever, but this was just awkward and sloppy, and these two did not work together. The chemistry was not there. I just kind of watched sloppy move after sloppy move until Thunder Rosa hits a submission for the win.
Yeah, that was about it. This was a squash match. No questions asked.
Tony Schiavone's in the back with Arn Anderson and Brock Anderson.
Ugh.
Brock Anderson looks like a college kid who's dressed up as Arn Anderson for Halloween. I mean, am I wrong?
No. He looks old. He looks old like his dad. Like Arn Anderson's looked exactly the same since 1990 when I first ever saw him wrestle. But
And red panties and a fucking bald head and beard.
he's looked exactly the same since then. But he looks exactly the same now. So he's looked old forever. So as far as I knew, when I first saw him in WWF, when he jumped over there around like WrestleMania 7, I want to say, it was like, this guy's old, and then he's still old. So I never know how old he is, and his son looks just as old. His son could be either 21 or 38. Or not even 38, 48, 58. I can't tell where he's at. He could be any of those ages. Is he 21? Is he 40? Is he 60? What the hell's going on?
It just runs in the Anderson blood, apparently. I know that's not his real name. Don't give me shit. But Brock Anderson, apparently, he's going to avenge his dad getting his head kicked off. And he's went ahead and signed his own death certificate because he's going to be in a squash match against Malachi Black on Dynamite next week.
Yeah, big sell. Especially when your dad tries to talk you out of it in the promo to boost up your match. So your big first match against a real superstar, and your dad's going, "Don't do it. You're going to get your head kicked off, kid."
Yep, that'll really build the confidence.
Woo!
That'll really get the people behind them.
That really puts asses in seats.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for telling me the ending.
And I usually don't report on the stupid little, rundowns for next week's matches, but this was pretty funny to see excrement just squirm in his seat right here. He's announcing the matches for Rampage and Dynamite coming up here. And when he mentions Jade Cargill, he says, Jade Cargill, and then very awkwardly says, that bitch. He did not want to say that. I think that was written in, and Jade Cargill really wants to push this that bitch gimmick. And it comes off pretty bad when you have an announcer going, Jade Cargill, that bitch, is going to fight Adriana Hogan or whatever next week.
Adriana Hogan. That bitch. He should have said Jade Cargill's going to fight that bitch. He's going to fight that other bitch.
You know me. I would have fucking played into the gimmick. I would have been like, and Jade Cargill, that fucking Amazon monster rotten bitch, is going
And
to fuck up this jobber next week.
AEW wishes nothing but best for Eric Todd on his future endeavors.
I would have been Max Castard. I would have been having to unfollow everybody.
They would have unfollowed you and kicked you out the business. And then finally we moved to the main event.
You wish. We got more talking, Brian. The fuck you thinking we're going to go into a main event without getting a promo from John Moxley in a hidden hallway somewhere?
I don't know where that's at.
Anyway, Mox just cuts a promo on everybody. He is sick of everyone's shit. And I kind of like this Moxley. He's like, fuck you, that storyline sucks. Fuck you, you're not doing anything. They signed you, you're not doing shit. You think I'm the one who carried this motherfucker with no audience?
Yeah. Fuck you, Jack.
He's cutting, it sounds like, shoot promos on everyone. He's clearly upset.
The Mox is not happy. He hasn't fought in months. God knows when he had a tag team match. And he's got a stupid new theme song. And he's really just getting the big old shit sandwich.
Yeah, nothing like Joan Jett to fucking pump you up for a death match.
Wild thing.
Next, we got our main event here, finally.
You wish.
We got MJF versus Chris Jericho in a no Judas music, no Judas effect match.
No Judas match.
Judas-free match. Jericho comes out and the whole crowd, they really hit this one on the head. The whole crowd sings every word to Judas on My Mind from beginning to end. It faded out here and there.
They had some rough spots.
They were
like
trying.
My eyes in the wreckage of my life. Like they knew the spots they knew, and those other kind of verse parts they were like they kept the rhythm going.
And yeah, it was great. One of the best parts was watching the audience and people not knowing the words, but the audio hit. And even I was going through my TikToks and there's a creator on there named Heel Josh, and Heel Josh is the biggest. He is the biggest AEW mark on the planet this side of Don Meltzer.
Don Meltzer.
And Heel Josh,
Uncle Don,
chilling with his homeboy, eating tortilla chips and watching this. And even Heel Josh didn't know the words, and he wasn't even shy about it. He's like, fuck it, I don't know the words. I'm just gonna enjoy my chips.
Enjoy my chips.
We get this thing started, and starts off rather normal. Jericho's Jericho, man. But surprisingly, he wasn't easily getting blown up during this match. Looks like he's been hitting the treadmill here and there. He was actually able to do some decent spots here and not die and not have to grab his asthma inhaler. MJF steals Jericho's gimmick here and does the whole cameraman spot that Jericho's known for. And you know what he gets for it, Brian? He gets a Jericho punch right in the lens. And for some reason that irked me, because I get it. If you punch the camera, it's going to hit MJF in the face, and I guess it'll hurt. But it just looked so set up, like they were looking for that camera shot of Jericho's fist coming right at the camera, and it just felt fake.
It felt forced.
Very forced, yeah.
Obviously, we'll give it fake, but I say it felt forced is what it really felt like, and that'll get you. I was 50-50 on that spot. I liked when he was doing the camera thing and he was flipping off the audience through the camera, because Jericho's been known to do the camera gimmick like of the last couple years. The punch thing, meh. I could have dealt without the punch thing.
Yeah, forced is the perfect adjective for it.
Forced.
But MJF, a master of getting heat. He played that goofy shit when he was hanging out with Jericho on a regular basis, and I lost a lot of respect for MJF back in the day. But he came back in full force. He is getting a ton of heat from the crowd, working Jericho's bad arm, and the crowd almost endlessly is chanting "You ain't shit" to MJF. At least that's what I picked up on. Is that what they were?
It's what it sounded like.
You heard
something along those lines. Something shit. You ate shit. You ain't shit. I don't know which one it was, but
Jericho's on offense most of this match. He's jumping off the top rope. He's doing a ton of running.
Hurricane Rana.
Top rope Hurricane Rana on MJF here.
He didn't almost break his neck like when he was facing Nick Gage. Life is good. Yeah. Life is good.
Yeah. Keep up the good work, Jericho. Hopefully you can keep this moving forward there. Who knows who you're going to be working with next. I have a feeling working with MJF, it's a little easier to put on a good match than if you're in there with
Juventud Guerrero.
I don't know. Jerry Garcia, Juventud Guerrero, one of them idiots. MJF hits a brutal pendulum pile driver. That thing looked rough. Looked like Jericho ate the fucking canvas for dinner right there. Gets a 2 count out of that. And MJF, again, I'll say it again, master of getting heat, escapes out of a Jericho sleeper hold by grabbing Ref Aubrey and just full on pulling her in and hitting a low blow. MJF's putting his ring on while Jericho's being sneaky and getting a hold of Floyd here. Ref Aubrey catches MJF putting on his ring. Jericho raises his hand to her in a backhand type manner. It looks like he's going to slap the shit out of Ref Aubrey. And this crowd hates MJF at this point.
Yeah, MJF definitely getting a lot of the heat, and Jericho digging for Floyd the Bat.
Yes. Pretty boy Floyd with the bat there. Aubrey is, so the spot can happen. Aubrey is facing away from the action. She's given the security guard MJF's ring. That way Jericho can hit MJF in the tummy with the bat. And this, Brian, is just
this part made me so mad. So you're gonna grab the bat, you're gonna hit him with the bat, work or shoot. You're hitting him with a bat, right?
Which is a disqualifiable offense.
Right. This is breaking the rules. And then Ref Aubrey is still somewhat distracted at this point.
Still facing completely away from the action.
He goes to the back corner or to his turnbuckle, like he backs up to the turnbuckle a little bit. He goes to spin to throw the Judas effect because it's just nature. And then he realizes he can't do that. It's illegal.
He's not allowed to do it, Brian,
so he stops.
Even though the referee's not looking.
So he stops. And then and I don't even know what they did, to be honest with you, but ended up in a squabble and on the ground. Then he ends up in the salt of the earth Fujiwara armbar.
Yeah, and I guess what really made it worse for me is Jericho's been in the business for 30 years. MJF is a true professional. How they weren't able to improvise that when Jericho can see I'm allowed to break the rules here, he should have just hit the Judas effect, got a 2 count, and then we could have went into the salt of the earth gimmick there and wrapped it up. But either way, Jericho stops himself with the Judas effect. MJF in turn hits a Judas effect, puts Jericho in the salt of the earth, and he's just yanking on that bad arm until Jericho's forced to tap out. And the 5 labors of Jericho just end with a fart.
Yeah. So while we were talking about this, I thought of an idea of that they should have ran with, and why not? 5 labors of Jericho. So why don't they start throwing the labors of Jericho and interfering? And Jericho's already beat them. So beating them up and not ruining his match isn't going to hurt any of them, right? So in the first one, he fought Shawn Spears. So why isn't Shawn Spears come down and try to get interfered in the match? Like MJF has pulled all the stops out, right? Sean Spears comes down, pop. He hits him with a Judas effect. You get Nick Gage makes an appearance. They could have gave him $32 in a pocket of meth. He'd have flown in. Like, you could have, boom, he hits him, knocks him out. You get fucking dickhead McGillicuddy. There's everybody, Juventud in. You could have tossed him a few dinero. It all would have rolled, man. Like, and he could have then still lost the match in the way that MJF's like, and I still, or whatever, but I just thought that would have been interesting. At least call back to everything that happened.
That would have been a great way to do a callback and kind of remind everybody of the shit Jericho had to trudge through to get to this point. But yeah, it
just ended.
It just ended.
But Jericho, but MJF got beat. MJF beat Jericho cleanly. So I can respect that in building a storyline and going forward on it. It pretty much can kind of wrap it up from here. If they wrapped it up and separated these two for a little bit, it would make sense to me. And this makes sense as of now. Jericho going through the 4 labors of Jericho and then losing to MJF is putting him over like crazy. Jericho came into this thing like a beast. He's got full momentum. He's supposed to take out MJF, and then he loses clean, and not only loses clean, but taps out to MJF. That should theoretically put MJF on a pedestal there and be at the top of the mountain. But you and I both know, Brian, that AEW can't book for shit. Unless they put MJF in another main event level storyline, the whole putting MJF over from Jericho is just going to fizzle the fuck out. Yeah.
And it's going to stink.
I agree with you that it's probably not going to go anywhere. And speaking of not going anywhere, I think that wraps up our end of the podcast here.
Yeah, I just checked the clock. We are exactly 2 hours in right now, it looks like.
Right there. That was AEW, man. AEW starting out with Rampage. Talking about that. We talked about Dynamite. They're working their way towards their all-in, all-out pay-per-view. All-out pay-per-view. We got the big Rampage show in Chicago, claiming to be live from Chicago, 10 o'clock. This is the big, is CM Punk going to show up? Is he not going to show up? Daniel Bryan going to show up? Somebody's showing up. It's live. It's Friday night. Something's happening. We'll see. We'll be on here talking about it next week, and make sure you guys join us on all the social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram. Get on YouTube, subscribe, like, share, and write a review on those podcast platforms that you listen to it on. Help a brothers out, your brothers out, and that's it, man. That's the KayFabe Smark podcast. Eric, what do you got for us?
Just one more thing. Be sure to check us out on TikTok. If we got a good following on TikTok, if you were following us for a while, we kind of fizzled out, quit making content there. Brian and I are working on getting
the
more diverse rhythm back on TikTok, some green screen shit, some videos playing in the background with commentary. Bear with us. We're 38 and 39-year-old men. We're not too familiar with all the shit that goes on with TikTok, but we're trying.
We're trying.
We're gonna put out some interesting content on TikTok for you, so check us out on there. And then other than that, hooty hoo, we out the gates.